Hey guys. How's everybody doing today? There we go. We're in for some fun. All right. Good. The concurrent users is hopping around like crazy. Went from like 2 to 3 to 2 to 7 to 1 to all over the place. So I figured I'd jump on a little bit early. We usually start at the actual thing at 7. So if anybody wants to chat on IRC or anything. Today we're going to be doing some cool monitoring stuff. I had to learn how some of this stuff worked together, and I'll tell you what, it is neat. Works really well. So, just going to hang out. If there's any questions on anybody, or if anybody wants to see any cool Linuxy stuff that's not pertaining to the presentation, feel free to pipe up. Python dependency hell. That's what pip's for. And environments are as you can see, we're always having wild parties here in the JaxLUG. It's very chatty. Actually, the regular meetings, it's people are usually pretty on the point for chatting and carrying on and stuff. But I'm just out here by my lonesome, hanging out, talking to myself. But we're going to be playing again with monitoring, a fact that we exacerbated the need for when our SSL cert expired due to a bad external or incoming firewall config that I did on the JaxLUG server. maybe I'll show you guys a little preview here of our little box. All right. Come on. There it goes. I'd throw up some music, but I'm sure we get taken down for that or something. Oh, you guys are going to love this. It's so neat. So for anybody new on the stream, we're going to be starting in about 8 minutes. Start about 5 minutes. Should get a harmonica so I can sit there and ham bone for you guys. Instead of everybody just watching. Maybe next time we'll just start straight up at 7. But, last time we had a lot of people asking questions and wanting to see stuff, and I didn't put that on the one that eventually makes it on the YouTube. So I was figuring this is a little bit bonus time, but there's no questions today, so we're just sitting here awkwardly staring at each other. Now I'm awkwardly staring into my fridge. So I'll be right back. All right. Let's see. I just want to get this thing started and record so we can have a high quality stream for it. All right. So we'll go ahead and start the presentation. Today we're going to be talking about Prometheus and Grafana. Prometheus is a monitoring and alerting tool, kind of like Nagios. It's newer. They have a lot of exporters that can export material into them, and you got some pretty interesting configuration options that you can do. Grafana is a grapher, basically. It makes pretty graphs out of data, and so we're using the two together to make some neat stuff happen. So I'm going to walk you guys through building a server set for this, and we can see what we can do with it. All right. So the first thing, I'm running Gen 2. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm running Gen 2, and so a lot of this is going to be based in Gen 2, but it can be translated very easily to other operating systems. I've installed Prometheus. Actually, I'll just bring my notes over here. So, to install Prometheus on Gen 2, you guys probably can't see that very well. There you go. You just install app-metrics Prometheus, and that will allow you to have the core of Prometheus. To install Node Exporter, you can install app-metrics Node Exporter, or Node Exporter. Node Exporter is a type of plugin, basically, that you can run on the nodes, and it'll export a whole bunch of data about them. Think of it like SNMP or SMTP. No. It's not SMTP. It's SNMP. Yeah, that's it. And then we have the other one I was using, which is Black Box Exporter. Black Box Exporter, I had to throw in a keyword for to get it to install because it's unstable. But what that does is it goes out, and from your server you can go out and talk to other resources and be like, hey, what's your status, or like ping something or whatever. So that's what we're going to be concentrating on today. So first thing we'll look at is Prometheus. We're going to look at I'm not going to go through installing it because you can install it on your own. So this is going to be more configuration, and then showing you what we can do with it. So this is the primary configuration file for mine. You can tier them out, so you can actually add more files and stuff to set up what you're doing. And let's see. All right. So most of the stuff is up the top is default. So this is what comes with the default config, but then I added a couple other ones. So here I just have the default Prometheus job name. You can change that if you want. And I tell it, hey, I want you to target these two. And it's actually going to use those two for the node exporter. These things have a path that's associated. The different exporters have paths, and in this case, this path defaults to metrics, whereas the black box one defaults to probe. I have two probes set up, and these are the node exporter probes. So this is the server it's running on, and then this is my old Gen 2 desktop box. And then down here we have the black box probe stuff that we're doing pings with, and we're doing HTTP calls with to make sure that it has SSL and stuff like that. So the way you configure something is you have to have your exporter on the box for the node exporter, or you have to have a black box exporter set up. So whatever exporter you do, you need to set that up, configure it, and then go into Prometheus and tell Prometheus what to do with it. All right, and so that's what we're doing here, is we're actually setting up Prometheus to do something with these. So it's going to go and it's going to go to these targets and it's going to do something. So in the case of node exporter, it's going to go to this port, it's going to go look at metrics, and it's going to be like, what's up? And then it's going to take that data, pull it into itself, and catalog it. For the black box ones, what it's going to do is it's actually going to go out to this address, which is the black box exporter software. It's going to go and say, hey, I want you to run this module, which will show you that in a second, and I want you to do it with, do these things. I want you to go poke these things using that module, and then whenever you get the responses, then relabel the configs as such, so it's a little bit more user-friendly when we end up with the material. And it's kind of the same thing with the ICMP down here at the bottom. It's pretty much the same as the HTTP one. It's just configured in the back end a little bit differently. So let's look at our node exporter. So one of the things in node exporter that I saw was that, at least in Gen 2, they need you to turn this down. So it's actually set to 2 usually. It's probably most Linuxes. I'm not sure how good or bad this is for security, but basically it disallows you from getting performance events, I would assume, as non-root users or as lower ring users, and so you're lowering that, so let's keep that in mind. Also, I don't really know how to secure this. This is all just inside my network. I'm still playing around with it. So really just don't expose these things directly to the internet or anything too, because for right now at least, unless you do your own research and figure out what you want to know, because otherwise I would just be able to poke a server on the internet and grab that material off of that server. It's like running SNMP, just read only out to the internet and just be like, hey, here's what my server's doing, right? It's not the greatest thing. It's not necessarily damaging, but it's, providing information that people can use against you potentially. So keep that in mind. Use this on internal networks, and if you're not, or even if you are, work on honing in on security. Even if you can't put a username and password, and you can, with firewall rules, be like, only talk to this server for this port or something like that. So there's some stuff you could do with that. Prometheus and the exporters just run. So I can do like etc and netd. Again, this is going to be different for other Linuxes because they're going to be doing systemd, but I'm running in Gen 2, and I like my init.d. So we have Prometheus, and you can see it's running, and then we have the same thing for node exporter and black box exporter, right? So those are our three. The two exporters are feeding into Prometheus. Prometheus is taking that data and storing it away. With the black box exporter, I did encounter that I had some issues. When it tried to start, the binary file was actually this black box exporter 0770. So I needed to link that to black box exporter so that the startup script would work. I could have also just changed the startup script to point at this, but I didn't care. So that's what I did. And then I also had to do something else with the networking portion to get the ping right. have to find that real quick. Where did I do that? Yeah, I had to do this thing. So this allows that program to actually ping, because pinging is restricted in certain things, and so we want to do that, and so it can actually do ICMP actions on its own. Alright, so let's look at the node exporter. Doesn't actually have really a config, you just run it. But what we can do is we can go etc node exporter, I think, no, conf.d node exporter. Oh. So this is the config for node explorer. As you can see, it is very fully functional. It's only just command arguments. You could probably go in and change a whole bunch of stuff about it here if you wanted to, but I didn't need to, because it was on the port was fine. Everything was fine with what I was doing it with. One thing that I encountered is I actually needed to change the Prometheus port, because my Prometheus runs on 9090 by default. So in my Prometheus build here, I needed to tell it, hey, I want you to listen on this specific IP on this specific port. So I just added that to the command line arguments, and boom, it was fine. I didn't like putting it in there. I would have preferred to put it in a config file, but this is the only thing I really found quickly that would do it, and it works. So whatever. If you find a better way, cool, let me know. That'll be neat. All right, so let's go look at the black box exporter, and then we're going to go into the UI each one of these, and then we'll go into Grafana. So the black box exporter is a little bit more complex. This is the config file that it comes with as an example, right? So black box exporter has a lot of stuff you can do, and this is just building the modules themselves and telling them what you want to do. So like you can set up different modules to do things in different ways. So it's really interesting. Very complex. So you can have different ICMP ones that time out different times, or they come from different IPs, or they use different IP protocols. You could do DNS that uses different protocols, or comes from different areas, or has different failures or passes, and all kinds of different stuff. So this is where you configure the black box exporter, and you can do a lot to that. Node exporter versus black box. There's a question on IRC. So node exporter is going to generally give you a lot of things about a node, whereas the black box exporter is more trying to go out and talk to services. And I'll show you guys some of the exporters. There's a ton of exporters. There's a lot of them that are official. Both of these are official. There's a ton of them that are unofficial that people just write up, and then you can write your own too if you want. I've seen like people that build like Python scripts that do pings and stuff, and you just pass it whatever you want, and then you can build stuff inside of Prometheus to use that, and then go ping out and do kind of crazy stuff. So my black box exporter I have configured just with two things. I have one called HTTPS. It uses the HTTP program, and timeout of 5 seconds. It accepts HTTP 1.1 and 2, and has valid status codes of 200, 302, and 301, which are OK, redirect, and I forgot what the other one is. My method is get. Fail if SSL is false. Fail if not SSL is true. Okay, so I want it to specifically return SSL only. And then insecure skip verify, I say false because I want to make sure that I have a valid certificate and it's using a valid TLS config. Now, when we get into Grafana, you'll actually see that one of the domains is failing, and I haven't figured out why yet, so it might be something I have to change in here. The ICMP I have set up, I'm using the ICMP programmer, and ICMP is ping, for those that don't know. Ping is a type of ICMP traffic. There's actually a lot of different types of ICMP traffic. Ping is just one of them, and what we're doing here is we're just doing a hello. It's just like you go out, you say hello, and see how long it takes you to respond, right? So that's ping. I want it to come from my internal IP address. I had tried a lot of the configs that they have online. Tell you to start at localhost, so 127.0.0.1. That didn't work for me. It actually was just like, I can't get there. And I was like, all right. So I changed it to my IP address on my box inside of my network, and it worked fine. Also, the preferred protocol, it's kind of weird that they leave off the V, because usually when you're doing IP protocol versions, it says like IPv4 or IPv6, but they just did IP4, IP6. So a little gotcha if you're just sitting there like surfing along and they're like, oh, just keep pay attention to what a lot of these things say. I don't know if IPv4 would work or not, but it probably wouldn't. So that's the black box, my small black box config. You can certainly make it way bigger, way more complex. And this is just a simple experimental box that we're kind of showing off and playing around with. I'm probably going to rebuild all this stuff and make it exactly to what I want it to do. So, all right. So now we've gone through the configs. Let's go look at our web pages and show where some of this stuff comes from. Whoops, not over there. Come here. I need to make my snap twos smaller. No. Snap. There it goes. All right. So if I do this, these are the official exporters for Prometheus. If you just go to GitHub/Prometheus, they have all their little project stuff, and you can see there's black box exporter. There's Prometheus itself, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's JAMX exporter, HA proxy exporter, CloudWatch, Alert Manager. I haven't really played with much any of these, but there's the node exporter. We're using that one too. Exporter for machine metrics, that's a really cool one. I like that one a lot. StatsD, there's a whole ton of them. Multiple pages of stuff. And then there's a ton of non-official ones too. So plenty of stuff to play around with. So let's go to the black box exporter. So if you actually go to the IP itself, or the port itself, you can actually see what it's doing. And so if I refresh this, you can see like a log of what it's been doing. You can see that it's failed on my little wiki. I'm in the process of rebuilding this wiki, so I'm sorry if you've liked the resources on Kapiki. It is getting rebuilt as a media wiki again. I was not happy with how I had to do everything and the limitations inside of the GitHub pages, so I'm just going to redo it as a MediaWiki page again. But in here you can see like all these successes, the little failures and stuff, and what you can actually do is you can look at it. So you can just click on log and you can see exactly what it did. All right, so that's how I'm going to troubleshoot this this failure. Is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to look, and here's what probe is. It says eventually that it failed, and I just have to figure out why it thinks that it's a failure. Maybe it's this because it's IP protocol IP6. So maybe it's responding with something that this thing's not particularly getting, because it says it's received HTTP response 200, which is good. Oh, there it is. Invalid HTTP version number. Version equals 2. Oh, I accepted that, so I don't know. We'll have to take a look. But yeah, so this is the black box exporter. If you look at the node exporter, I don't know. I haven't actually. Inside the black box exporter as well, you can see metrics, which are basically just what's going on inside of this thing, and then your configuration. So it'll actually print out the configuration that you're running. So that's pretty cool. Again, you should protect this. Like, you don't want to just be sending this information out to everybody. So lock everything down with IP tables, with firewalls, and you know, all kinds of stuff. And don't worry about it, Ted. Ted Busto. I'll have Kapiki fixed here in a little while. I've just been real busy residing my house and doing fun things out in the sun, like trying to die. But good things. One thing I'm thinking of is the HTTP 2 might need to be like 2.0, but I'm not sure. One thing I've noticed in these probes is it actually says, like, sometimes it'll be like, hey, I failed because of regex, and so a lot of these things are probably regex expressions. And then you can, I think you could set up modules and call them that, and then you can actually like run them individually and see what's going on, but I didn't set those up. So that's the black box exporter. Let's see if the other one does anything. Well, okay, node exporter does do something. And so these are HTTP requests that Prometheus can actually go and do. And so metrics, yeah, there you go. And so there's all the metrics for that box that this node exporter exposes. All right. So again, don't just run this on the internet and let everybody in the world look at it. You know, it's got all kinds of information about your box. So, yeah. All right, so let's go to Prometheus. This is the Prometheus web UI. The Prometheus web UI is pretty simplistic, but it allows you to do specific queries and do everything. And then you can have other programs like Graphiz or other stuff hook into it and pull the data out of it and do stuff with it. All right. But this thing will actually do pretty graphs too. So let's say I want to do some kind of an HTTP query, right? 1 second. All right. And here this is the failure right here. So it says probe HTTP redirects, and it's got a 0. So that means that it failed, which is probably what's causing my little failure here. I just have to figure out why. So if I say HTTP, I can, up here in the query history, I can actually see all the things that Prometheus supports querying on. And so let's say I want probe HTTP status code, right? And I execute it, and then boom. Now I have the statuses of these little guys. Now this is the console. I can do a time. So you can step through the time of the of each one of these executions, and you can see when something like failed, right? So if you're a systems administrator and you're like, okay, I want to go into Prometheus and I want to specifically see that I want the status codes of these things on each one of the ticks when it fires, you can actually do that. So you can just sit there and step through them, and you can see that mine is checking every 10 seconds. Now this time, it's not the same time as it is, so I'm not sure where this time comes from. That's it's probably UTC, yeah. So you could probably change that. I'm not sure yet, but yeah. So let's do HTTP again, and let's say duration, right? So this should give us a cool little graph of like different things that are going on, and I got these the two sites going on in here. All right, and so if I go to graph here, it'll actually give me a graph, really nice looking graph too. And then I can tell it to stack or not, so I can unstack it and have the specific things going on. I can stack it so it, I can see specifically how much of the time or whatever is going on each one of these has. And then I can change my time basis too, so I can say like 30 minutes. And now I can see a little bit clearer, or like 10 minutes. Boom. So really cool material you can get in Prometheus. You got a lot of good stuff that you can do, but it is kind of hard to make like a dashboard with this. Yes, Ted Busto, this would be very useful for seeing if something is running against you, if something is going on. So like, for instance, this right here, you can see that this guy, this resolve job, that ran right there, and then you can click on it and you can see only that one, right? So I can say like processing, right? So this other one, processing. You can see the process time. So it's really, really super useful. I don't know how it would do. Oh, just, I don't know. I guess if you click on the, if you click on, if you double click, it'll go all. Yeah, it's visualization of logs, of performance data and stuff is super useful. So extremely useful for troubleshooting things. If you don't have that, then it's like looking like for a particular tree in a forest. You can see all the trees, but they all kind of blend together and look the same. If you color all the trees different colors, then it makes it easier to see. And then if you group them all together, then it makes it a whole lot easier to see. And so you can find that tree for the forest, right? And so that's what we're doing here, is we're basically just gathering data, performance data specifically, but we can gather all kinds of data, and then we can visualize it and look. And so you can say like, oh, we started getting attacked at exactly this time, and it's coming from this IP. And instead of having to go through and try to figure all that out, you can figure that out in like 5 seconds with this. So, hey, no proto. Yes, and Doritor, we are going to, I'm going to put this up as a recording as well. So there's going to be a better quality one, because YouTube's concurrent stream processing kind of garbages up stuff, because it's trying to process stuff really quickly, and we're looking at pretty detailed stuff. So hopefully the better recording actually looks a lot better usually. So at this point, now we have this alerting, or this system set up. We can look at our graphs. We can try to figure out what's going on. It does have alerts, but I don't have any alerting rules set up right now. So I just have the graphic. And you can look at the status. Gives you, again, you don't want to expose this information out to the internet or whatever. But like, here's the build, because it's, it's Gen 2. I'm the builder. Portage is the builder. And like when it's built and what it's actually written in Go, which I did see something in Portage saying that Go may be incompatible between versions. I haven't really done a lot of things with Go, but if it's anything like like some of the newer Python stuff, or specifically like Ruby. I've had a lot of experience with Ruby. Ruby is very fickle, and a lot of times you break things between even minor revisions. So, that might be very important. So, let's go take a look at Graphiz. So, our Graphiz in Gen 2, I might need to step up and become a maintainer or help the maintainers or something. The Graphiz is it's fairly old at least in Gen 2. The new one is 7.13. I think the one that's in Gen 2 is like 6.8. But they have a helpful little tag in their site for this particular package saying, hey, this is a really old version. You might want to not use it. Luckily, Grafana just has a basically just this tarball that has a pre-compiled version for AMD 64 and Linux, and I just went and snagged that for now. You can compile it. I probably will compile it later, and maybe I'll try to help out with the package. But I just went ahead and snagged this from Grafana, and so this is the newest version. What I did is, as a non-root user, I just went into Grafana, or I extracted it, went into the binary directory, and I ran Grafana server. You logged in as admin, and then I'll go through the sources and stuff with you. So, inside of Grafana, you start out on the page with this after you log in. What you want to do is you want to add a data source. All right, so you can go and add things in this create area. And you can configure your data sources and stuff. So the add is for like dashboards, folders, like importing stuff. So it's more like the user interface. And then down here, the configuration is for your users, your teams of users, your plugins, preferences, key sources, and data sources. And so we go into the data sources, and I have a single data source set up right now, which is Prometheus. It came with it already in there, so I didn't have to import anything. I just add data source, Prometheus, and then mine was different. So like usually you would just say, fine, localhost 9090, that's great. You just need to point it at your Prometheus source. Mine is running on 8555 instead of 9090. So I just did that same URL. Actually, I couldn't use localhost. I had to use 127.0.0.1 because this thing was trying to use IPv6, and I don't think I had IPv6 set up. And so it was just like, I don't know what's going on. And so I just told it 127.0.0.1, which is specifically IPv4, and then 8555. So depending on your setup, you may or may not encounter that same issue. If you're running something like Debian or something like that, probably won't see that issue because it's all set up for you. They got the IPv6 and IPv4 all kind of playing together. You can set up your authentication. So yes, you can do authentication, and you can even do OAuth and stuff. So yeah, lots of cool stuff you can do. You can even modify the HTTP headers and change how fast it scrapes and all this kind of stuff. So it's all kinds of neat stuff. And oops, it actually made it. I don't want it. Let's see, previous one. Yeah, get out of here. All right. And then users, because this is just an example machine, I just have the normal admin user, and there's no teams. The plugins, these all come with it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can see like there's Azure up there. It's probably like AWS, CloudWatch, Elasticsearch. So this thing can graph all kinds of crazy stuff. It is fantastic. It's a neat little thing. You can plug it in at MySQL, Postgres, you can do tables, all kinds of neat stuff. I've only ever used it with Grafana, and it works really well with that. And there are more plugins too. And yeah, you can customize your stuff here. Just main.org, whatever. All right. So once you get your source data, okay, so that's what Prometheus is the source of data for this. You should generally set up a dashboard. All right. Now, the way that I set up the dashboards is people have conveniently made additional dashboards on the internet, which are really handy, and they are really nice, because otherwise you'd have to do this by hand, and it's a pain in the butt. So if you go to dashboards, you can see that they have a whole bunch. A lot of these seem to be in Chinese or something. Yeah, CN. Yeah, so there's like CN and EN. A lot of them are rebuilt. I don't know. Oh, I guess there's official and community ones that are lopped in here. And I don't know if there's a way you can tell it to only show you the official ones or something. But I found that these two, 1860 and 7587, work really well. So I just drop these into the there. Yeah, because I found a black box exporter that I was sitting there trying to work with, and it was just broken. But it was one of the ones that was downloaded a lot, but it was older. And so I found somebody else, they were like, oh, I'm using 7587. And I looked at it and I tried it out and it worked better. So that's the one I'm using, and it seems to work well. And then the node exporter 1860 is the one that works pretty well as well. So you could just go to these sites. That's not what I wanted to do. Copy. And it gives you a little bit about it. It gives you like a little picture and how to set up the stuff inside of, in this case, Prometheus. So, black box exporter. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. Copy, paste. All right. So this one doesn't tell you a lot about it. It just gives you some pictures, and you just got to kind of figure it out on your own. So, all right. So let's go take a look at Grafana. So what you can do is you want to add these dashboards. You can just go import. You can give it a URL or just the ID. So you can give it that whole URL or just the ID number, and then load it in. And it'll give you some options, and then it'll ask you, let's see if I can do it without, yeah, I should be able to do it. So, load, okay, yeah, well, it's got all this red because it's already there, but, so you name it, you put it in a particular folder, you give it a unique identifier, which does apparently come with that thing, but you can change that. And then you give it a data source, and so this in case I would just set it to Prometheus, and then you would do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to cancel that, and now we're going to go to the dashboard home. I have the two dashboards set up. So I have my node exporter and my Prometheus black box exporter. I don't know why that lost its checkbox, but all right. So let's do the node exporter. All right. In the node exporter, I have two boxes configured, as we saw earlier in the Prometheus. I have localhost and I have my desktop, right? And so if I look at my desktop, then I can see like current status and all that stuff. And if I look at localhost, I can see the same type of thing. And you can set up pages that have like specific. This is a dashboard. Okay, so you can set the dashboard up to do anything you want it to do. And so let's say that you were setting it up as a small business owner and you want to watch the status and health of all the web pages you run or all the servers you run for clients or something like that. You could build a dashboard that does that and then set values where you know when things are in a bad state or in a very critical state, and you can have them be different colors, and then you can have things alert when they go critical and all that kind of stuff. So it's very pretty, it's very useful, and there's a lot of out-of-the-box usage, but it could very much stand to be used in different ways, right? Like however ways you want to do it. Very customizable. Excuse me. So, and you can like drag these things around if you want. Move it around. I love this interface. It's so nice. I used to do Nagios at one of my previous works, and it's a nice little thing, but man, it's difficult to get configured and really irritating to get look pretty, especially if you want to like hand it off to other organizations. And so a lot of times you'll just build your own site that just interfaces with Nagios, just like we're doing with Prometheus. Prometheus is the same way. You can't really build a super nice, pretty dashboard. You can kind of, but that's not really the purpose of it. Use this or some other product to make it prettier for people. This is the CEO look, I should say. It's very useful for us, and we love pretty things, but this is what the CEOs like to see. They like to see the pretty stuff, and they're like, "Oh, look at that, that's cool." So yeah. So we're just going to expand all these things out, and we'll take a look at this here server. I don't know if there's an expand all or not, but we're just going to walk down these things. So this is the node exporter. One of the cool things with Grafana is you can actually just grab a particular time range, and so you can just click and drag over, and it'll just be like, okay, I'll give you that time range. And you can click and drag over and make it a little bit small, more in depth, and drill down, closer and closer. And so I'm down to like, this is each one of these blocks is 30 seconds, right? So that's pretty granular. But you can get down to even like, I think it's 15 seconds or something. In this particular configuration, you can make it more aggressive if you want. If you walk down this, you can see that each one of these things has representations. This is a box that's got a bunch of Docker containers on it, so it's got tons of virtual Ethernet devices, because Docker likes to do that. Makes a whole bunch of virtual Ethernet devices. And so you can see what's going on in each one of those things. Same thing with all your file systems and all kinds of different stuff. So you can see that you can just drill down and see what's going on these different things. This is really useful for troubleshooting what's going on in particular things. And it's very pretty. So there's processor status. It doesn't have like some of these things, but I'm sure I could get them if I wanted to, or I can limit them. Here's my system load. So if I just go and like say, let's see, not that. I want to, yeah, there we go. So you can do drop downs up here. These are time bases. So you can do dragging around, but you can also go and drop down up here at the top. And I want to say the last 30 minutes, right? Boom. Now I have the last 30 minutes on all of these graphs. And you can set up your dashboard to do whatever. And so you can sit down and be like, all right, here's all the loads, here's all the different things. And then I want to look at the last 30 minutes. I want to look at the last 15 minutes. I want to look at 4 hours ago to 30 minutes past that. And you can get a lot of information really quickly. It's cool. It does entropy. So you can see if you're running out of entropy, which is randomness, and it's a randomness pool. Here's my hardware temperatures. Disk read writes, disk IOPS. So like you can see if something's hammering your disks, or you can see if there's like reading and writing a lot. It's all very useful information for like when you're trying to troubleshoot something. Down here, Here's like TCP stuff. We have like TCP errors, which is not, that's not great if you have those, but that's a pretty low number, I think. So you can kind of troubleshoot what's going on. You can see the TCP in out there, the number of connections. These things are really useful when you're troubleshooting, like if somebody's flooding you with just TCP connections, and then you could probably just find out who's doing that and whatnot just by looking at some graphs. And then here's your scrape time. All right. So let's go look at the other one. So if we, because I opened it all, it was like, oh, you want to save that? No, right. Let's look at the node exporter a little bit more. Let's look at this node because it's a little bit more dynamic. I was doing some compiling and stuff on it earlier. And so you can see here's when I was compiling some packages on here, I was updating some stuff. And you can see that I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. And then here we can see that I started the stream. So you can actually see that right here. Right here, I deleted one of the big game folders that I was doing for the last presentation to free up some space, because I don't know if you guys saw earlier, but it said, hey, your root FS is at 94% or something like that. And since I'm recording this, I didn't want it to run out of space while I was doing it. So I went and cleared out some space, and now it's green. It's happy. And you can see, like, here's my compiling, and then I was all right. I was done. And then, the stream doesn't seem to be killing anything that much, but I have an IO weight right here. This red here. Oh. So yeah, the busy IO weight was 81 right there. So like there was something going on with IO, and it had some weight going on. And then down here you can see that I was doing a lot of network stuff, and then I can drill down into that even more, and I can see like what's going on with the processor, what's going on with the memory stack, my network traffic specifically. I can see how much I've been transferring. So I'm uploading at about 8.6 megabits per second. There's my disk usage, my IO usage, read and write. So you can see that, when I'm sitting there messing around doing stuff. Let's see. So yeah, we don't need to go through all of this stuff, but you can see that it's very dynamic, and you can see what's going on with the system. There's no systemd because I don't run systemd. Yeah. So apparently it doesn't do all that much in the way of reading and writing when it does the recording. But there's file system space available. There's something that doesn't like that. But yeah, interesting information. Poke around, look at it. So let's go look at the other one. I want to look at Black Box Exporter. So Black Box Exporter might be more useful for other people. So the node exporter is really useful for like sysadmins, somebody that has to deal with a lot of servers. So what you could do is you put all the node exporters on all of your servers. So let's say you have like 2,000 servers or something, and you want to monitor all of them. Well, the node exporter would be really useful for that, because it allows you to have point-in-time error troubleshooting, basically. It's like, oh, this box crashed. Okay, well, let's go look at the Grafana and see what happened up to, like, you get the box back up, you get it running, and then you're investigating to see what happened before the box crashed. And then you could say, like, oh, I see root getting used up all the way to 100%, and then it like crashed, and then like why did that happen? Or you could, oh, the memory got all used up. Okay, why? It's kind of like if any sysadmins have ever used SAR, system accounting, which is a very useful tool. SAR is usually set up to account for every 10 minutes. You can set it down to a minute if you want to, and you can see like all kinds of system statistics. So you can see CPU, load average, disk IOPS, you can see memory stuff, you can see kernel paging characteristics. You can see all that. Guess what? You can see it here too. You just have to configure it, and now you have pretty graphs, and it's great, and you can drill down. It's really fantastic. So in this case, I'm not sure why it's got this HTTP thing here, because it's an ICMP probe. It's not saying that they're error, they're just not data. And so this might be a characteristic of this this setup. And so maybe instead of using this dashboard, I would make my own, right? Because I don't care about this stuff because it doesn't exist. I just want to see about this stuff. And so I can see, and you can see, that Comcast has issues sometimes, and so it just spikes all the time. I have little spikes of ping, and hopefully those on the stream haven't really seen that, but maybe you did. Who knows? Here's that down status I was telling you about earlier. I'm not sure why that's down, but I'll have to investigate that. And now, or well, once I rebuild this and do this again, I'll actually have JaxLUG, and I'll make sure that it's running. It's got a 200, and that it's got SSL. That's good, and then how long it is till the SSL expires. So that's pretty cool. And again, you can kind of dig down and look. And let's see, I can actually go in, and the targets, you can change the targets up here. So let's say just the JaxLUG. All right, so I just want a JaxLUG. All right, so I just see that. I click on this guy. Let's see, can I? It's just a whatever. All right, so yeah, I can sit there and drill down and look closer and closer and see what's happening, and then walk around and see exactly what's happening in those things. So, all right. I haven't seen any other questions, so unless anybody has questions, that's pretty much it. It's an introduction to Prometheus, exporters, and Grafana. So some pretty cool stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And feel free to hang out on IRC. We have our little pseudo lush over in IRC. Hang out there. And that's pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And have a nice rest of your day.